Have you ever looked in the mirror and felt like the person staring back at you was a complete stranger? I'm not just talking about a bad hair day or a fleeting doubt. I mean the kind of gut-punch realization that your entire life, every memory, every truth you've clung to, might be built on a lie. That's the shattering moment I faced when I discovered my parents had been hiding a secret so massive, it rewrote who I am. I was adopted, and they never told me. This isn't just about finding out where I came from. It's about the raw, messy journey of betrayal, longing, and the desperate search for answers that led me to track down my biological family. I'm going to take you through the heartbreak of uncovering the truth, the roller coaster of emotions as I hunted for my roots, and a twist that flipped everything I thought I knew on its head. Stick with me, because this story isn't over yet, and I'm still figuring out where I belong. Let's dive into the most earth-shaking chapter of my life. My name's Ethan, and I'm 29 now, living in a small, weathered house on the outskirts of Asheville, North Carolina, a mountain town nestled in the Blue Ridge with misty peaks looming over artsy streets and a laid-back, hippie vibe that clashes with the chaos of my inner world. Asheville's a place of beauty and grit. Think winding trails through Pisgah National Forest, quirky breweries downtown, and a tight-knit community where everyone knows your name. But for me, it's also a backdrop to a personal earthquake that started unraveling in 2016 and hasn't stopped shaking me since. This story centers on the bombshell that I was adopted, a secret my parents kept from me for over 2 decades, and my obsessive, emotional quest to find my biological family, a journey that's tested every ounce of my strength. The key figure in this mess, beyond my adoptive parents, is my biological mother, a woman named Clara, whose existence I didn't even know about until I started digging, and whose story became the key to understanding pieces of myself I didn't know were missing. The emotional conflict tearing me apart is the clash between the deep love and gratitude I feel for the parents who raised me, flawed as they are, and the burning resentment and confusion over their decision to hide my origins, leaving me stranded between 2 identities I'm still trying to reconcile. The unexpected twist hit me in late 2019, when I learned that Clara didn't give me up by choice. She'd been forced into it by circumstances beyond her control, a revelation that shattered my assumptions and left me aching with questions I might never answer. This all unfolds in Asheville and beyond, spanning from 2016 to 2023, with the town's rugged charm and haunting beauty weaving through every step of my search. The weight of this secret first started creeping into my mind on quiet nights in my childhood home, long before I knew the truth. As I'd lie awake in my bedroom under the slanted roof, the distant howl of wind through the mountains outside my window stirring a restlessness I couldn't name. Growing up, I'd always felt a little out of place. My lanky frame and sharp green eyes didn't match my parents' stocky builds or brown gazes, and I'd brush off their vague answers about family history with a shrug, chalking it up to being a quirky kid. I remember flipping through old photo albums in our cluttered living room, the smell of pine from the nearby forest seeping through cracked windows, searching for baby pictures of myself only to find gaps, a weird absence of hospital shots or first steps that I never thought to question until much later. Now, sitting in my own place with the same mountain air cooling my skin, I think back to those early flickers of doubt, wondering how I missed the signs that my life wasn't the full story. The real unraveling began on a crisp fall day in October 2016, when Asheville was ablaze with golden leaves and the downtown streets buzzed with tourists snapping pics of the Biltmore estate, and I stumbled on a clue that cracked my world open. I was 22 then, helping my parents clean out their attic after a pipe burst, sorting through dusty boxes of junk while the smell of mildew hung heavy, when I found a locked metal tin tucked behind old Christmas decorations. Curiosity got the better of me. I pried it open with a screwdriver, expecting old tax forms or something boring, only to find a faded document with the word adoption stamped across the top, my name scrawled in unfamiliar handwriting, and a date that matched my birthday. Standing there, the cold attic air biting at my neck, my heart pounded so hard I thought I'd pass out, the realization sinking in that everything I'd been told about my life was a carefully crafted lie, and I didn't even know who I was anymore. That discovery sent me spiraling into a haze of anger and disbelief, the vibrant fall colors outside my window a cruel contrast to the storm brewing inside me as I wrestled with what this meant. I didn't confront my parents right away, couldn't, really, too overwhelmed by the betrayal. The idea that the people who'd tucked me in at night and cheered at my soccer games had kept something so fundamental from me. I'd sit on the porch of their house in West Asheville, staring at the rolling hills, memories of family camping trips to Mount Mitchell clashing with the sting of their silence, wondering if every "I love you" was tainted by this secret. The town's autumn charm, the smell of wood smoke, the chatter of locals at harvest festivals, felt like a mockery of the warmth I'd lost, and I started pulling away, spending hours alone at coffee shops on Haywood Road, journaling my confusion, torn between the life I knew and the truth I didn't. By early 2017, the need for answers became an itch I couldn't ignore, pushing me to start digging into my origins even as I battled the hurt of my parents' deception, each step a mix of dread and desperate hope. I didn't tell Mom and Dad I'd found the papers. Part of me was scared of their reaction, part of me just wanted to figure this out on my own. So I started with online searches, hunched over my laptop in my tiny apartment near UNC Asheville, the glow of the screen my only company as I scoured adoption registries and public records. I drive to the Buncombe County Courthouse on slow weekends, the mountain fog clinging to my windshield, poring over sealed files with a clerk's reluctant help, each dead and a punch to the gut, but also fuel to keep going, driven by hazy memories of feeling different and a longing to know where I came from. Asheville's creative spirit, buskers strumming guitars downtown, art galleries spilling with raw emotion, mirrored my own messy search, though every unanswered question left me wondering if I'd ever feel whole. The emotional toll deepened through 2017 and into 2018 as I wrestled with the void of not knowing my roots while still living under the shadow of my parents' lie, each day a reminder of a past I couldn't grasp. I started noticing how I'd flinch at family dinners, avoiding Mom's probing questions about my mood while Dad's quiet glances felt heavier than ever, the unspoken truth a wall between us as we sat around their oak table with the same old deer antlers mounted on the wall. I'd escaped to the Blue Ridge Parkway, driving aimlessly through misty curves, the ache of missing a history I'd never known mixing with resentment toward the only family I did know, wondering if I'd failed myself by not asking harder questions sooner. My makeshift life, working odd jobs as a freelance graphic designer, sketching logos in dim bars like The Wedge, felt unmoored, and every late-night scroll through ancestry sites was a stab of what could have been, while Asheville's winter chill seemed to seep into my bones. The breakthrough came in mid-2019, on a humid summer evening after years of dead ends, when I finally tracked down a name. Clara Hensley, my biological mother, through a DNA test I'd taken on a whim, a moment that hit like lightning and reshaped everything. I was sitting on my sagging couch, the distant hum of a street festival drifting through my open window, when the email popped up with a match, linking me to a woman in her late 40s living in Knoxville, Tennessee, just a couple hours' drive across the mountains. My hands shook as I stared at her profile photo, a woman with my same sharp green eyes, a tired smile on her face, feeling a surge of connection but also terror, wondering what kind of life she'd lived and why I'd been taken from it. Asheville's summer buzz, the smell of grilled food from food trucks, the laughter of hikers fresh off the Appalachian Trail, felt surreal against the gravity of this discovery, a reminder that I was on the edge of something I couldn't turn back from. The unexpected twist slammed into me later that year, in November 2019, after I'd mustered the courage to reach out to Clara via a shaky email, and her response revealed a truth that shattered every assumption I'd made about my adoption. She wrote back within days, her words raw and heavy, explaining that she hadn't wanted to give me up. She'd been 16, pregnant, and pressured by her strict family to sign me away, with no resources to fight back in a small, judgmental town. Sitting in a quiet corner of Malaprop's bookstore downtown, the smell of coffee and old pages grounding me as I read her message on my phone, I felt a storm of emotions, sorrow for her pain, anger at the system that failed us both, and a strange relief that I hadn't been unwanted, all while the soft chatter of readers around me seemed to fade into nothing. This wasn't the story of a careless mother I'd braced myself for. It was a tragedy of circumstance, and it left me aching to know her while questioning if I could handle the weight of her past. Reeling from Clara's revelation, I threw myself into building a connection with her, turning my confusion into a cautious hope, even as I wrestled with what this meant for my relationship with my adoptive parents. I didn't tell Mom and Dad about Clara yet, too raw to face their reaction. Instead, driving to Knoxville for our first meeting in early 2020, my beat-up Honda rattling over mountain passes as my stomach churned with nerves, picturing every possible outcome. Meeting her at a diner off I-40, the smell of greasy fries thick in the air, I saw a woman worn by life but warm, her hands fidgeting like mine as we sat in awkward silence at first, a moment that felt both like coming home and meeting a stranger. Asheville's rugged beauty, the endless ridges I'd driven through, felt like a metaphor for the rocky path ahead, though every shared story with Clara, from her teenage dreams to her regrets, carried the weight of years lost, and I wasn't sure if I could bridge that gap with my other family. Reflecting on my past with my adoptive parents became a near-constant loop, especially on quiet nights back in Asheville, the hum of crickets outside my window grounding me as I thought about what we'd been through. I'd remember the good times, like Dad teaching me to fish in the French Broad River, his gruff patience a comfort, now tainted by the image of that hidden adoption paper in my mind. I recalled Mom's late-night baking sessions, the kitchen warm with the smell of cookies as we laughed, a memory now overshadowed by the silence she kept about my origins. I'd sit on my porch, staring at the dark outline of Mount Pisgah, wondering if I'd ignored signs of their discomfort when I'd asked about family history, or if I'd been too quick to trust their vague answers. Asheville's renewal, spring blooms along the riverfront, the buzz of the art scene, felt like a challenge to my stagnation, pushing me to decide if I could rebuild with them or if the hurt ran too deep. The grind of balancing two families, or the idea of them, stretched into 2021 and beyond, with the pandemic slowing my progress but not my resolve, as the weight of Clara's forced choice lingered like the fog over the Smokies. I kept in touch with her through calls and sporadic visits, learning about her life as a single mom to a younger half-sister I'd never known about, each conversation a mix of joy and pain as I pieced together a history I'd missed. I'd escape to the quiet of Looking Glass Falls on rare days off, the roar of water drowning my spiraling thoughts, questioning if I'd been too hard on my adoptive parents, if I should have confronted them sooner, or if my obsession with Clara was more about filling a void than building something real. Asheville's eerie stillness during those years, empty streets downtown, the silence of shuttered galleries, mirrored my isolation, each day a battle to keep hope alive, while the full picture of my identity felt further away than ever. By late 2022, I'd carved out a fragile balance, with a tentative bond growing with Clara and my freelance work keeping me afloat, though the unresolved hurt with my adoptive parents lingered like the damp chill of a mountain winter. I finally sat down with Mom and Dad in their kitchen, the same deer antlers still on the wall, and laid out what I'd found, watching their faces crumple as they admitted they'd hidden it to protect me, a reasoning that felt hollow against years of deception. I moved forward with Clara, meeting my half-sister over Zoom, a shy 10-year-old with my same crooked smile, a small victory that felt huge, though trust with my parents remained a distant hope, tested by every stilted phone call, unsure if I'd ever see them the same way. Asheville's rugged spirit, the resilience of folks rebuilding after hard times, the community vibe at local markets, kept me grounded, though every step forward carried a mix of triumph and unanswered questions about where I truly belonged. The emotional weight of navigating two families while carrying this betrayal felt like hiking through a storm in the Smokies, each step forward shadowed by a past I couldn't fully shake. I'd run into old friends at spots like the Orange Peel, their casual "how's your folks?" questions a minefield, forcing me to dodge with half-smiles while inside I burned with the secret of my adoption and Clara's story, a weight I'd only shared with a close buddy over beers. I started second-guessing my distance from Mom and Dad, wondering if I'd been too harsh in pulling back, or if closure meant a deeper conversation about why they lied, a thought that kept me up on nights when the city's distant music sounded louder than my resolve. Driving along the parkway, past endless vistas, I wrestled with whether I'd let this secret steal too much from me, or if I'd reclaimed enough by finding Clara. The weight of my dual identity, and my own lingering doubts, didn't fade easily. Even as I pushed forward, each memory of my childhood a reminder of how fragile family ties can be. I'd spend hours in my house, scrolling through old photos of camping trips with Mom and Dad, finding a shot of me grinning by a campfire, and feel a pang of longing for the simplicity we'd lost, now replaced by a guarded hope when I'd get a rare, awkward text from them. I started avoiding big family gatherings beyond quick holiday drop-ins, unable to sit through hours of small talk with unspoken truths hanging over us, wondering if they ever regretted their choice or if they still saw it as protection. I'd walk through downtown Asheville on quiet evenings, past the street art and buskers, feeling like a stranger in my own story, asking myself if I'd been too quick to pull away, or if that distance was the only way to protect the peace I'd fought for. By mid-2023, I'd built a life I could call stable, with a growing connection to Clara and my half-sister, and my design work picking up enough to save for a trip to meet more of her family, though not unscathed by the journey. I celebrated small victories, like a solo hike to Black Balsam Knob, standing atop the bald with the wind whipping around me, a sense of freedom I hadn't felt in years, though I still caught flickers of resentment in my reflection during quiet moments, a reminder of the trust one was still rebuilding with myself. Yet, every time I'd hear from Mom or Dad, a rare attempt to reconnect. Usually a quick call about checking in. I'd feel that old mix of anger and curiosity, wondering if we'd ever truly address their deception, or if we were doomed to this surface-level dance. I started mentoring younger designers online, sharing skills, the act a bomb and a blade, unsure if I was healing or just hiding from the bigger questions about my two families. Reflecting on the journey to find my biological roots and wrestle with my adoptive parents' betrayal, I spent a lot of time wandering Asheville's quieter edges, like the paths along the Swannanoa River, the mountain horizon a somber mirror to my mood as I thought about what I'd gained and lost. I'd remember the early days with Mom and Dad, building forts in the backyard under the pines, dreaming of adventures while the sunset glowed, a hope now tainted by the memory of that hidden tin. I thought about Clara's quiet resilience, piecing together her life through our talks, a strength now warped by the years we'd missed, reduced to planned visits if I can afford the drive. I'd sit on park benches, sketching out design ideas in the fading light, wondering if I'd been too naive to see my parents' discomfort, or if I'd ignored red flags and their evasiveness over the years. Asheville's harsh beauty, the endless peaks, the river's steady flow, felt like a challenge, pushing me to decide if I'd let this hurt define me, or if I could forge something new despite it. Now, as I sit here in my small house, the soft glow of my desk lamp casting shadows on my sketchpad, the distant sound of wind rustling through the trees drifting through the cracked window, I'm still wrestling with where to go from here. My life feels steadier, with a fragile bridge to Clara and a shot at understanding more of my roots on the horizon, but not whole, not yet. There are nights when I stare at my phone, wondering if sitting down with Mom and Dad for one last honest conversation could mend something, or if it'd just reopen the wound. And then there's Clara. Part of me wants to dive deeper, to build a real family with her and my half-sister. Maybe even relocate closer to Knoxville if work allows. But another part of me just wants to focus on my own path, to stop letting these dual identities loom over me. Maybe even take a design gig far from Asheville for a fresh start. So, I'm turning to you, my listeners, because I'm at a crossroads and I could really use your perspective. Have you ever uncovered a family secret that changed everything, leaving you torn between the people who raised you and the truth of where you came from? How did you handle it? Did you confront the past head-on, try to build new bonds, or just focus on carving out your own space? I'm torn between pushing for closure with my adoptive parents, risking more hurt, or pouring my